Good evening, everyone. We're out here at the sawmill again today. Kind of wanted to give you all a little update about some of the stuff we're doing over here. Kind of show y'all a couple things we've come across, a couple different little tricks that we're learning here and there, and y'all can kind of participate. If you're seeing something that you think would work better, let me know. And if you like what I'm doing, then definitely take a look at it. As always, guys, I would appreciate it if you do like what you're seeing. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm gonna get right into the video here. I kind of started cutting different stuff. I've experimented with different ways to stack stuff, but now I'm getting ready to cut some wood for that's going to be used inside of our house. It's not going to be any of the structural stuff, but it's going to be other stuff that you can do. But I want it to stay straight, and I want it to stay really good, you know. And so the thing is, it could end up sitting in the stack for quite a while. So I've showed a couple other videos, a couple different really neat tricks. You know, we did some stuff where we, you know, cut some logs down like this and stacked our lumber on our logs and stuff. And those were some decent temporary ways of setting it there, and it could probably even last for 2 years. I sure wouldn't want to set it on a pine log for any longer than 2 years. If it was going to be longer than that and you wanted to use a log, I would go with, you know, I don't know, oak, white oak for sure. It would last for a pretty good little while. But really, if I'm going to get past a year or so and I want it to be able to stay there, I'm going to use these right here. So I went ahead and I got 10 of these. They really didn't cost that much. The nice thing about these is they're not going to rot. You know, it's a little bit of an investment, but it was really still only 25 bucks. Even after inflation has brought everything up, it still wasn't too bad. You know, so $25 for something that's going to last, you know, pretty well forever, and I can set my whole stack on there. I think that's going to work pretty good. So we're going to level all of those pads out, and we may do a video on that. And then after we level that out, I think what we're going to do is we're going to take these two logs right over here, these longer ones, and what we've tried to do here, guys, is make it to where we're cutting the least amount of cuts as possible, especially on all this stuff, because there's a lot of preparation that comes in before you can actually start cutting usable lumber. So you want to minimize your cuts, but at the same time you still want them to be good clean cuts. So I've made the mistake myself, and I've heard some other people say that, you know, when you're wanting to minimize cuts and get through it, they even talk about cutting with that's a good place to cut with a dull blade when you're cutting some of your wood to stack with. And I wouldn't advise it, guys. I really wouldn't, because you want no matter what you're cutting, if you're getting ready to stack this stuff on here, you really want it to be good and smooth. And you want all of those pieces to be the same. All of these pieces are the same. And I went and got a sharp blade. Now, I did use some knottier pine for this, and I felt fine doing that, but you want to be sure, especially when you got knottier pine, you've got a nice sharp blade, because each one of those knots will cause a little bit of, it will either dip down or it will go over that knot. So you really want to make sure you've got a sharp blade. Well, what I did here, guys, this is going to be for my 9-foot boards, my 9-foot stack. We're going to have 9-foot walls in our house, so all of the lumber that will be stacked on here will be 9 foot. I'm going to lay these across on top of the cinder blocks, or well, blocks. So I'll put my blocks in on the ground. That'll get me 4 inches off the ground. And then I'll lay these are 5 inches. I'll lay those on top of that. And then I'm going to take these boards right here, and I'm going to run this way all the way down those boards. And I'm going to run 5 of those. You always want to have your stickers and everything you're stacking on. You don't want to go any farther than 2 foot apart. So if I got 9 foot here and I put 5 of them there, then I'll be good. Okay. Then after that, I've cut some extra here, and they're all cut to the same width. And then I've cut some more down in here. This is something I wanted to show y'all a little bit too. This whole thing, this is essentially a pallet. This is something I've started making to where once I create my stack, the beginning of my stack with my cinder blocks and everything that gets me up off the ground, that beginning foundation, I want to leave that there for the entire duration of the stack. I don't want to move that, okay? But everything above that, what I'm doing is I'm actually creating pallets, okay? And then, so with those pallets, I'll show you one of my old stacks that I'm actually fixing to take down and redo. I kind of knocked over some of this other stuff. We're about to pick this up. We're going to use a lot of this stuff for our chicken tractors we're about to build, so we wasn't too worried about that. But this stack right here, we're getting ready to redo this stack. We're going to go ahead and do, instead of a 4-foot stack, we're going to do 5-foot stacks. I have found, after doing this for just a little bit, that I don't really like the 4-foot stacks. The 5-foot stacks, they're way more stable and you can stack up a lot higher. So we're actually going to take this down. But what the pallets do for you is, you see how I got different types of boards? I've got 2x4s here, and then I go up and I got a little bit different here, and then I got different types of boards as you go up. Well, with those pallets, I can put a pallet right on top of those 2x4s, and that way I'm able to pick that pallet up and move it around, and I can get down all throughout my stack separated. I can pick the pallet up, move it to the side, and then once I'm done, once I harvest anything I want off of here, reestablish my stack, and then take that pallet, lay it back on there. That way I'm able to harvest all throughout the stack, and I'm not having to break my back to do it. And I'll have to, I don't have to do near the work or labor. This stack right here that we've currently got, this stuff was all cut to be, this is the first stuff we ever did. This was actually cut specifically for the farm. But anyway, we're gonna get ready to restack that, and I'm gonna show y'all. We'll turn back over here, and I'm gonna show you kind of what we're doing with these pallets. We're trying to minimize as much cuts as we can possibly get, and we want to keep from having to put a whole lot of waste in there. So the first thing that we did was we took logs. These were 5-foot logs. So when I was cutting my trees, I was harvesting these trees. When I got to the point where I could no longer harvest my 10-foot, 20-foot, 8-foot, a decent log that would end up being some decent lumber. Once I got past that 8-foot point, and it was going to either be 7-foot or less, then I would actually cut 5-foot pieces, logs, and I'm going to use those specifically for stickers and for logs to stack on. So in this case, I use it for a log to stack on. So I actually cut this out right here, and I tried to minimize as much waste as I could. Basically, I just quartered my logs. I just cut it right down the center there, cut the very tops off, got it flat on 2 sides, but I never worried about cutting this other side, because you're trying to minimize your cuts. You don't know what you're going to do with these, so just minimize that. If you ever get ready to, you want to use that as a usable 4x4 for something else, then you can always put it back in the sawmill and recut that off later. But honestly, I think it's always going to be used just for this. And then all of these 9-foot pieces, those came from my 9-foot lumber that I actually cut there. I'm going to come around here and show y'all. Those big pieces right there, they came from my 9-foot logs when I'm getting down to usable lumber. So you always start off with a log where the first thing you do is you flatten your log off, and then you drop it down just a little bit and take it down to more usable lumber so you can get it down to a good cant, okay? So the first thing I do is I cut the first flat, okay? And then I like to drop 1 inch every time, no matter what. Sometimes I'll drop 1.5 inches, and then I can get a 2x4 out of it. Usually I drop about 1 inch, and that way I've always got lumber that is the same thickness that I don't just throw away, because I don't want to throw these pieces away. So now I can take these pieces, I don't have to do anything else with them. I had to cut them anyway. The blades were always going to have to be used to cut that regardless. Now I can use that to screw on top. I put a couple screws, nails, whatever, pop something in there to hold that whole piece together. Now that is a usable pallet that I'm going to have for quite some time. Okay? Now, let's just say a couple years go down the road, I get to where I'm not processing near as much lumber, and I don't need all these extra pallets. Well, I can always take that back loose again, run that back through the mill, and then I could turn that into stickers if I wanted to. I could even use that as siding. I've seen people use that as siding, or even in bedrooms. I mean, it kind of looks good. If you're into that, that would look really nice. It would look good on a log cabin side or something like that. So it's possible that I could do something like that. But for the most part, I think they'll probably stay just like this. So anyway, guys, I wanted to just talk about that a little bit, show y'all what we're doing, and I wanted to touch on this just a little bit, show you, a good ways to keep the very little, get as much out of your log as you can possibly get, but also get as much out of your blade as you can get. Because one thing I'm learning for sure, guys, is you're going to burn through those blades. You're going to use those blades up when you get that sawmill, because you always want to be running a good sharp blade. That's very, very important. Anyway, guys, as always, like I said, don't forget to like and subscribe. It truly does help my channel, and I really do appreciate it. Thanks so much.